Hello, my name is Richard Bach. Welcome to my living room. Today we're going to talk about the portraits I've collected and some of the history on them or what I know about them. In colonial times and afterwards, portraiture was thought of very differently than we think about it today. We have cameras today and videos and photos everywhere. But in the 18th century and early 19th century, they relied on artists. To have a portrait done, you had to have money. And after we separated from the crown and became a nation, fortunes were made overnight, and people wanted to show that wealth off. So they had portraits done when they got married, when they were married, and to put on the wall to let you know, they've arrived. This is, and the bigger the portrait, the more elaborate the frame, that's telling you something. That's a statement. When you look at a portrait, there's a lot more to see than just the face. You're looking at a timeline. We're all on a timeline. And in each society, at any time period, there are certain trends that are in or out. A lot of these portraits, if you can read the backgrounds, you can tell if they're lawyers or doctors. As you look at the portraits, you can decipher a little bit about the person in their time period, the hairstyles, their age, what they're doing for a living. Sometimes that's captured in the portrait. Some people find portraits of people they don't know disturbing. I do not. I look at them as part of American history. I enjoy them in the rooms. They become friends over time. Now I know that sounds bizarre, but they're part of the furniture and the decoration of the house. And I enjoyed looking at them. I think about these people sometimes, the lives they've lived. If they could only talk, I think it'd be really interesting. Now, when you look at these portraits, you say, well, they're not smiling. Well, some of them have a little bit of a smile. They wanted to look good, and a lot of them had very bad teeth. They did not have the dentistry we have today. So you wanted to smile very minimally. They also, in the 18th century, smallpox went through the colonies, and a lot of them were badly pockmarked, so they would put beeswax in the crevices and put powder over it, and you could not smile or frown with all that wax on your face. There's a lot of things that you're looking at in these portraits that you may not realize. This portrait was painted after the American Revolution. My guess is 1770s, 1780s, maybe a little later, but not much. You look at the frame, it's in need of restoration. But you look at the frame, you see the rosettes in the corner. That's telling you something. It's original frame. It's plaster over wood, and it needs to be restored. He's not wearing a wig. His hair is powdered. That tells you something. He's writing on a piece of paper with a quill and an inkwell. That's important. He wants you to know that he can read and write, and he has some type of position that's important. This is the companion piece to the gentleman, husband and wife. She's most certainly a trophy wife, and she's all decked out for this painting. They're letting you know they have money. Look at the bonnet. Isn't that beautiful? And this scarf is really nice. She has 2 bracelets on, and she's a very attractive woman. This portrait is probably 1840, 1850. I think it's American. Don't quote me on that. The dress is unbelievable. You can tell she has a corset under that dress. Somebody hand sewed that dress for her. lace, probably from Belgium. This frame is original, the painting, and it is a beautiful frame. If you look close, there looks like there might be some kind of scarring. So she has lace over her neck to hide spots, birthmark, whatever it is, which I think is interesting. This painting was desessioned from a museum in New York State, and I just loved it, and I bought it. This one tells quite a story. Let's talk about the frame first. It's a big painting. The frame has lost a lot of its gold leafing, and the red paint from underneath is showing through. I really like that. It goes with the painting. This woman obviously has money. This painting is from probably 1840, maybe 1850. It's going into the Empire stage and furniture, marble, sheet of music. They're telling you she's a music teacher or she's very accomplished musician, one of the two. And she has quite a bit of jewelry on. You can see the gold clasp here, the gold rings on her fingers, the lace, and there is an institute. They're telling you some kind of institution. So she is either teaching or playing at a church or a college. So she's somebody important, and she's moving. This painting is interesting. It's English, it's not American. I think this frame is a little later. I think the original frame was lost, but it's still an early frame. She is obviously undressing, so I have it in my dressing room because it's a tad bawdy. You can see her taking the pins out of her stomacher, is what they call that piece of clothing. And she's giving you a suggestive look. So I don't know who it is or who it was painted for, but it's in my dressing room. These portraits are two of my favorites. They're in great condition. I think someone had them cleaned and revarnished. I think the frames were re-gilded. They're an interesting couple. They are definitely a New York City power couple. These portraits were done in 1828. It's Jane and James Keys, Keys. And he's a lawyer. You can see his law books. And he is doing extremely well. They're Irish. I don't know if they're second generation or third generation. But these came out of a New York collection in New York State, New York City. And I was glad to get them. This is the neoclassic time period in America. We're a nation, we're making money, and we're showing the fact that we're making money. And we're also looking back at Pompeii and Herculaneum. Look at her hair, very Romanesque in the 1820s and 30s. Irish lace, beautiful black dress. It's a pretty lady. It's a very nice portrait. Okay, two more neoclassic paintings. Think of Pride and Prejudice with Jane Austen, and this is the time period we're in, 1820s, 30s. Look at the here, the dresses and the scarf. The hair is so stylized. Definitely Greek and Roman revival, more like Greek revival. And this gentleman, look at the hair, same thing. This exaggerated hairstyle, yellow vest. That is really pretty nifty. It was nifty in the time period. I love these two portraits. Original frames. They're not related to each other. This portrait is English. It is 1780. It's late. For an English portrait, it's not as big as some of the ones I've seen. English portraits can be huge. The frame is original and it is pretty elaborate. It's all carved wood with, I'm sure it has plaster under it. This is a good time to talk about portraits. Sometimes the dress and the body is painted by one artist and the face by another. I'm sure that's what happened in this case, because the attention to the dress and hands is incredible, where the face did not get as much attention. She has a fan in her hand. She has large pearls. She's definitely a lady. The background, you see wonderful wainscoting and columns. So she's from a big estate. And this probably came out of a large home in England and found its way to America. I would say she's somewhere between 16 to 18 years old. I don't know if it was a wedding portrait, and sometimes they get separated. There's a husband and a wife, and one child takes the wife and the mother, and the other child takes the father. So we're only guessing at these things, but look at the fabric is all embroidered. She's on a large Empire red sofa, and she's a very pretty girl. I think it's been cleaned and revarnished. Well, this portrait is over my fireplace in my living room. I really like this gentleman. My guess is he's Quaker. Although Quakers weren't always having their portraits done, sometimes they left the Quaker church and joined the Episcopal church, and then they got portraits taken. I'm thinking he's Philadelphia, Chester County, Bucks County. He's definitely local. This painting was painted in 1800 on the dot. I know that. He's still wearing a wig. Most people have lost the wig by 1800. So he's still kind of stodgy. He's wearing a waistcoat in stripe. He's a little portly, which is telling you he's eating well. And he's very kind of a happy guy, which brings us to why people do not smile in portraits. They have bad teeth and they do not want to show them off. I think we just talked about that earlier. It's done in browns and tans, but it's a very nice painting. It's probably my absolute favorite, if you can have a favorite. But then I say that about all my paintings. This portrait was the second portrait I bought years ago. We've been carrying this all across the country as we moved. We've owned this painting for probably 40 years. This is a very late portrait. It's Victorian, and it screams Victorian. It says Mrs. Brown on the back. It's an East Coast painting of the time period. Frame's original. It's in excellent condition. It does have a rip in it. Someone tried to repair it. It looks to me like it's been revarnished. She's a lovely lady, and when I think of the Civil War, this is what I think of time period-wise. This is the big hoop skirts, the black lace. It's very typical to the time period. Thank you for joining me today. I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have. Next week, we'll be talking about fractors, and I hope you'll join us.